Welcome to the People's House. It is a great day for Maryland. It is a great day for our children. It's a great day for our families. And it's a great day for our communities. I'm proud because this session showed that we, as a state, can move differently. It showed that we can move in partnership. And it showed that, once again, Maryland can do big things and Maryland can lead. This is a culmination of days and weeks and months of planning and hard work, and I want to recognize our amazing and historic partners in the Maryland General Assembly, Speaker Adrian Jones and President Bill Ferguson. And to all the Assembly leaders, the committee chairs, the delegates, the senators, the staff, the advocates, the community leaders, the pages, the ones who are here cleaning the building in late hours of night. This is your day too. I entered office saying that this administration would launch the most aggressive, the most strategic, bipartisan, all-out assault on child poverty that this state has ever seen. Almost immediately, folks started betting against us, both in public and in private. People who said they can't do that. The legislature has already debated this. This is just simply hyperbole. We got a lot of that. But here's something that the critics and the cynics underestimated. They underestimated just how united we were going to be. They underestimated the partnerships that we will be able to build around this issue of addressing child poverty. They underestimated that we would be data-driven and heart-led. They underestimated all of those things. And the reason that we're able to build such a broad coalition is because child poverty affects all of our communities. Child poverty is a West Baltimore issue, and it's a West Annapolis issue. Child poverty is an Eastern Shore issue, and it is a Western Maryland issue. Child poverty is a Washington suburbs issue, and it is a Baltimore County suburbs issue. The face of child poverty is universal, and we refuse to look away, and we refuse to tolerate it. After I took office, I vowed that the Moore-Miller administration would defy the national politics of hyperpolarization and partisan divides, focusing more on where to place blame than where to construct solutions, caring more about where the idea came from than actually asking the question, is it a good idea? We would defy all that, and instead we would build bridges, and that's what we have done. Democrats and Republicans voted for these bills, and it's going to change the trajectory of our state for good. The Family Prosperity Act will permanently extend the Earned Income Tax Credit and expand the Child Tax Credit. This is a historic tax cut for working families in Maryland. It attacks child poverty at its root causes, and together, these two programs will lift at least 34,000 Maryland children to the next rung of the economic ladder. The Fair Wage Act will raise the minimum wage in Maryland to $15 an hour beginning January 1st of next year. Right now, around 126,000 Maryland children live in households where the main breadwinner makes less than $15 an hour. We need to end these days where people who are working, and in some cases working multiple jobs, are still living at or below the poverty line. These moms and these dads and these grandparents, these uncles and aunts and guardians, we hear you, baby. We hear you.
Example.
That's right. That these guardians, they're doing it right. And they're working hard, but they're still barely holding on. Both these bills will give them just a little extra cushion to pay for diapers, to get food on the table, to get ahead on next month's rent, to maybe take your family out to dinner every once in a while. And now days like today can feel pretty surreal when we're talking about legislation and votes and hundreds of thousands of people. It can be easy to lose track of what this is all about. But then I like to think about the person who inspired me to run for office in the first place. And I think about my mom, who's here today. She raised me. She raised me as an immigrant single mother who had to take care of 3 kids, who didn't get her first job that gave her benefits until I was 14. She worked hard so I could succeed. She sacrificed her own American dream so I maybe could achieve my own. And growing up, I saw the difference that a little extra money in the bank could make. Not just when it comes to having food on the table, but when it comes to changing the story of our entire family. And now this morning, my mom gets to watch her son sign legislation into law that will help other mothers like her in this state. And I'm very remiss where we have these cool pens that we're using to sign these bills. And Mom, I'd like for you to actually have the first pen that I give out. This is for all the families out here. Today is for all the families out here who are working hard, who are doing it right, and just wondering if state government and our larger society ever even sees them and appreciates them, and was willing to create a pathway so they can help their children thrive and help them to achieve more. And today, this legislature, this session, this administration, and our state is responding with a resounding yes. So thank you all so much for being here, for your leadership, for your push, for making our state better. And now I'm honored to turn the podium over to my friend and our Senate President, Bill Ferguson.
Well, now I feel guilty for not inviting my mom. No, it's wonderful. Thanks, Mom. Look, I am so incredibly thrilled to be here. Good afternoon. It feels like we were just here a couple hours ago. This is truly a historic and important moment, and I am just so incredibly thrilled to be here for our first bill signing. First and foremost, I want to thank my partner in this work, my House counterpart, the fearless leader across the hall, Speaker Jones. Truly. I just realized that this was our 4th year. We've now had a full term together, presiding in our respective chambers, and I just could not imagine doing this work with anyone else. And so thank you very much for your great leadership and the work we're able to do together. I also want to acknowledge all of the legislators in the room. I see our chair of judicial proceedings. I see members of the House and the Senate from our minority caucus, from our majority caucus, from all sides. We had an incredible, incredible year this year. It really, truly was, exceeded all expectations. I want to as well thank the governor, my friend. I want to thank you for working so closely and collaboratively with all legislators, Republicans and Democrats, every step of the way throughout this 90-day session. There were moments where things were bumpy or that we had to navigate differently, but your bold agenda, I believe, was exactly what Marylanders needed and wanted in this moment in time. Thank you for your leadership, Mr. Governor. If you think back to 91 days ago, it felt like quite an improbable journey for new lawmakers and leaders in Annapolis. We were in the midst of great transitions, a new attorney general, a new comptroller, a very fresh and new treasurer, across the board, everyone, our lieutenant governor, our governor. And it was a moment where there was a great deal of transition. Now, here we stand 91 days later, and I can say that what we had was an extreme success in the midst of transitionary times. Back 91 days ago, I laid out several priorities that the Senate and the General Assembly would take on, which included education funding, behavioral health, and transportation. Well, where did we land? We invested $8.78 billion in public education, and we left an additional $900 million for the future blueprint spending in future years. We passed one of the most comprehensive behavioral health and mental health packages that this state has ever seen. We set aside $200 million for transportation, and we set up a new commission called the Transportation Revenues and Infrastructure Needs Commission, or the TRAIN Commission, to take on and figure out how we are going to invest in these new and uncertain times when it comes to new technology and how we can move people and goods more efficiently. We sought to tackle critical issues emanating from the Supreme Court's Bruin decision and Roe decisions, and we had to take on the state cannabis ballot referendum. Today, I'm happy to report that with a truly stellar Senate leadership team, of which 2 of our 4 standing committee chairs were brand new, we fostered an environment of collaboration and crafted thoughtful legislation that we have delivered for the people of Maryland. In a year of firsts, the Senate knew we still had to be bold in our legislative agenda, yet mindful of the 4-year term ahead. I was reminded that Maryland voters affirmed our prior legislative agenda by giving us in the Senate 2 additional Democratic Senate seats for which to build this new term, but we had to do it in an inclusive way. And in this session of firsts, where we saw the first term of our new governor, our first post-pandemic session, and the first session of a truly ambitious 4-year term, we knew that there would be challenges to overcome. We had not so great firsts, as this was the first session in most of our lifetimes where women across the country lost their constitutionally protected right to choose, to make their own healthcare decisions. The Supreme Court made what I believe was one of the most flawed decisions in regard to the state's ability to limit concealed carry firearms in our communities. But through all of that, the Senate and the General Assembly responded exactly as the majority of people of Maryland expected us to do in its wake. We protected women's health, we protected their privacy, their private medical information in our reproductive rights package, and most importantly, we will be protecting a woman's right to choose by enshrining that right in the state constitution. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for your leadership on that. Last night, we adjourned sine die. I believe we have been successful across the board on that and many other priorities. The story of 2023 is that despite a time of major transition at all levels of state government, we have exceeded expectations for the first year of a new term. And I believe we've set ourselves up for continued success for the next 4 years. With that, let me hand it over to a phenomenal leader of the House of Delegates, Speaker Adrian Jones.
Both the governor and the Senate president said a lot. I'm going to be brief because you're standing in line. You want to get your bill signed. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It's great to be here with Governor Moore and President Ferguson for our first bill signing under the new administration. I want to thank them for working in partnership with the House this session. The legislative process isn't always easy and takes a lot of compromise, but we work together every step of the way to make this a successful session. This new partnership shows that we can accomplish when we're on the same team and share the same goals and values. I've been in the General Assembly since 1997. I've been here long enough to know that working together makes a difference. What we've done together this session will define a generation. This session has been about securing the future of Maryland and expanding the rights and freedoms for this and future generations of Marylanders. This generation has fewer reproductive rights than their parents. They've seen decades of child sexual abuse systematically covered up and swept under a rug. They've seen many people from my generation sit in prison and have their lives ruined for a simple cannabis possession. This generation has seen mass shooting after mass shooting and are begging for stronger gun safety measures. And they're experiencing continued attacks against them because of their race or gender. The Maryland General Assembly did what we do best. We responded. We responded with some of the most significant actions to protect civil rights and expand equity for this generation. We passed bills that allow victims of child sex abuse to get justice, created a legal cannabis market centered in equity, created parity in healthcare system for patients seeking gender-affirming care, secured reproductive rights, enhanced gun safety, and did more to make sure that future generations have a cleaner, more sustainable environment. We've invested in our current and future workforce by continuing to provide record funding for education and by modernizing our benefits to attract and retain the next generations of workers. This generation is demanding more from their government. What we've done this session shows that Maryland leaders are listening. I'm proud of what we've done, proud that we could work together on these issues, and I look forward to putting my signature on these bills. With that, let's get these bills signed.
Melissa? Are you ready? Senate Bill 555, Fair Wage Act of 2023.
Walk up. I wrote the bill.
Sometimes I just hold this. Yeah, that's
Do I hand this to you?
You have to bellow out, because people can't hear you in the back.
Or do I just look at
You
it?
can hand it to me. I'll put it right here.
I need that to read it.
Make the clap first.
Senate Bill 555. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much. All right, thank you, everybody. Come on in this way.
Senate Bill 552, House Bill 547, Family Prosperity Act of 2023.
Joy, shove them in here. our pause.
Last full signing day, we'll have it all figured out. Yeah, exactly.
Senate Bill 1?
No, we haven't called that one yet. We still have the paper yet. And I'm citizen review board for many years. It's like I keep running.
Chairman Wilson. So before we sign the remaining bills, I just want to take a moment. Let's make sure you get the doors closed. Thank you. Before we sign the remaining bills, I want to pause and I want to draw special attention to this next piece of legislation. Just under a week ago, our spectacular Attorney General, Attorney General Brown, released a 500-page report outlining how 156 members of the Catholic Church in Baltimore abused, tortured, and tormented more than 600 children and young adults over the course of decades. They worked together to cover up their crimes, and in some cases, they worked together to ensure they could continue committing those crimes. Mr. Attorney General, this report is harrowing. It is sickening, and it is heartbreaking. But I also learned that truth is a prerequisite for healing, and that healing has already started. Just hours after the report was released, the Maryland General Assembly passed the Child Victims Act, and I'm excited to now help to sign that into law. This bill will get rid of the statute of limitations on civil lawsuits against sexual abusers, and that is so important because it addresses the big gap between justice and our legal system. Because there is no statute of limitations on the pain that these victims continue to feel. There is no statute of limitations on the hurt that endures for decades after someone is assaulted. There is no statute of limitations on the trauma that haunts so many still to this day, and this law reflects that exact truth. The only reason that we are here today is because there are people who had the strength to tell their stories, repeatedly tell their stories and share their trauma in some cases. Stories of abuse, stories of pain, stories of hardship. Stories where their innocence and their trust was violated, taken advantage on, taken advantage of, and preyed upon. And those scars still show themselves. Telling these stories is not easy, but luckily, we have people who have the courage to tell theirs, and they have changed the world. And Delegate C.T. Wilson is one of those people. He has been fighting for years to get this bill passed. Every single year, sharing his story, painfully repeating his own trauma. The odds were longer than they should have been. The challenges were harder than they should have been. But Delegate Wilson is a fighter, and he never gave up. And when the history of this moment is written, Delegate Wilson will be front and center. With that, I turn it over to a person who, because of your strength, you just made our state better. Delegate C.T. Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Governor. My friend, I never thought God would let me see this moment. Madam Speaker, thank you for not only providing me the opportunity to chair one of your committees, but also making my fight, House Bill 1, to show this state just how serious she was about protecting our children. Chair Clippinger, thank you for always championing this bill, for hearing the horrible stories year after year, and doing your level best to push this law forward. Chair Smith, Senate President, thank you. Thank you for pulling your people together and making sure that this year was a year that this passed out of the Senate. Thank you. Special thanks to Chairwoman Atterbury, Senator Folden, and Alex Hughes, literally holding my hand through this 8 years of drama and standing with me when I couldn't stand alone. To my wife, Nicole, thank you for always helping me put the pieces back together after I bare my soul to try to push this through. I thank Claudia Remington, Kathleen Hope, Vanessa Emilio, Kathy Robb, David Lorenz. These folks have been fighting in this and other states to try and make this real. I thank all the survivors that came up year after year and told their stories. They had the audacity to get their hopes up just to be derided and dismissed by this very body. And we're all getting ready to stand up here as this bill is signed. And I'll say this, for me and for so many survivors, there should be so many more people standing up here. Not just those that helped, but in my case, those that endured some part of my hell. My wife, my children, my ex-wives, my ex-girlfriends, my friends and family, people who have suffered because of my childhood, my neglect, my emotional unavailability, that I'm volatile, that I'm distant, and that I'm quick to step out and abandon people. I'm not speaking for all the survivors, but I'm speaking for quite a few of them who unintentionally left a trail of misery and sadness in their wake as we struggle every day just to make it to the next day. So for those I have hurt, I wish you could be here. I'm not brazen enough to ask for forgiveness, but maybe you would understand. Because this bill at the end will not undo years of suffering, but maybe it'll give us hope, make us better people. But I want you to know that I have tried, and I am trying, and I will continue to try, not just to change this world, but to be a better person. This is as good as I can get, but I'll never stop trying. Thank you very much.
Senate Bill 686, House Bill 1, the Child Victims Act of 2023.
Let's do a second shot. Okay. Yeah, let's do 2 pictures.
Senate Bill 686. Here. Thank you very much.
We've got more people. We're going to do a second shot for this bill. The first group wants to circulate out.
What's the next board? What's that next board?
Yeah, no problem.
If you want the first shot, circulate towards the door.
Senate Bill 686, House Bill 1. Right here.
I have to do a third.
Thank you very much.
Circulate out. We've got one more group. We're going to bring in.
It's going to be tight, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to be in all these photos.
These go to the bill people first.
All right. Pause.
Looks like we're following in bill order here, right?
So when you hand me this, I'll read it.
Deal.
No, is that what you need? No.
We're going to do yet another one.
They already do 2? Folks, we need folks to move to the other side here, every back if you could, so we can squeeze everyone into this last shot, please. Squeeze behind the center group here. Come on the other side, we have room on the other side, so we can get everyone in.
House Bill 1, right here. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Okay. We need to start pushing people. Thank you. Okay. Oh, of course. I would go ahead and read the next bill.
House Bill 774, Senate Bill 665, the Senator Dolores Kelly Residents of Unlicensed Program Protection Act.